Let's do that. Yeah, well, it was 36.
Good evening. Welcome to those joining us for the Greytown Council meeting of March 26, 2024. I apologize for the late start. Our budget workshop ran a little long, but we were finalizing things, so we didn't want to stop in the middle of that. I will, excuse me. You'll notice that this meeting is being hosted both online and in person, as per our usual policy. I will begin with roll call. Councillor Height.
Here.
Councillor Meany.
Present.
Councillor McGuire.
Present.
Councillor Gass.
Present.
I'm Councillor Chapel, and to my right is Town Manager Mike Foley. If everyone could please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Does anyone need to remove what is just the minutes from March 12th from the consent agenda?
I had just a really minor, like corrected your name, so.
Yeah, I
I
actually think I have a thought I'd like to amend also, so let's remove those.
Okay.
Okay, so I'm looking for a motion to approve the council minutes from March 12th, 2024.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, Ann, why don't you start with your,
I just have
Edits.
one, packet page 4 under presentations. I don't know, I'm kind of a fanatic about getting names right. And so it's second paragraph, Chelsea Roy, it's just, her name is Chelsia, and her last name is Roy.
okay?
What was the spelling?
It's Chelsea, like Chelsea Morning, you know, Chelsia.
It's the
Roy.
Last name
S-E-Y.
Roy.
Okay, we'll get that changed.
And then I just had one kind of quick thing also on packet page 4 under the under the public comments where it's talking about Mr. Foster's comments on the weight limits. I believe he was actually commenting on the local roads ordinance that we have for weight limits,
Yeah.
particular to Shaker,
Yeah.
Marie Street and Mayall Road, not the winter weight limits.
I think he mentioned both. He talked about the winter ones being up so early this year, but he
But
definitely
but his
spoke.
issue with the forestry
Yep.
trucks was
Yeah.
more for those
Was-
local
yep.
roads.
Yeah,
You're right.
that's it too.
Good catch.
That's all I had.
Yep.
Does anyone else have?
No.
No? Okay. All right, so I will go to vote. Matthew?
Yes.
Marty?
Yes.
Dan?
Yes.
Ann?
Yes.
And I'm also a yes. Okay. Okay. So the only adjustment to the agenda I'm aware of, but others can chime in, is that under presentations, we were originally going to have the Great New Gloucester boys basketball state champions here for just some recognition, but they were unable to make it this evening. We're hoping to have them back at our next meeting on April 9th. Are there any other adjustments to the agenda?
No.
No. Okay. All right, so then I will, you know what? I just skipped over public comments. I apologize. So I'm going to go back to public comments. Public comments of non-agenda items. Comments are intended for information sharing, not discussion. Comments in excess of 3 minutes are welcome at the end of the agenda prior to adjournment. I see there are people here in the audience. Does anyone like to make comments on non-agenda items? Okay, you could just come up to the podium and introduce yourself.
Good evening, everyone. How's everyone doing today?
Hello. Yep.
Uh,
Go ahead. Introduce yourself and your address, please.
My name is Andre Jenkins. We are at 104 Lewiston Road. How's everyone doing today?
Good, how are you?
Good, good. I'm just here today, trying to recap on a couple of weeks ago. We spoke on a subcommittee regarding cannabis retail stores. I know that was one of our three main topics originally, and it seems like it's kind of quiet recently, so I'm kind of trying to get where we sit there. Myself and Wen, unfortunately, he can't be here today, but we're looking at possibly joining or helping you guys within the subcommittee to hopefully start getting that moving.
Yeah, I appreciate it. We can't get into discussion here. I actually was going to revisit that in my comments during the comments I make as chair.
Okay.
We've gotten a little off track from the work we had prioritized in January with
Understood. Appreciate
onboarding Mike here and just trying to get our budget processes situated. But I would like to revisit the things we had identified in January as priorities for this session, and that was one of them. So Matthew and I had met after attending an MMA workshop on cannabis ordinances, talking about what that ad hoc committee might look like, and we need to regroup around that, and we're hoping to do that soon, certainly before the session ends. So
I appreciate that.
yeah,
I
okay.
believe that's all I have.
Okay,
Thank
thank
you
you.
so much.
All
Thank you
right.
for coming.
Would anyone else like to make comments? No? Okay, and I do not see anyone online, I believe. Okay, so I will close public comments at 7:35 PM. And I think we only have one action item this evening. We're trying to keep our agendas light around the budget workshops. So I'm looking for a motion to appoint Diane Vaughn as a regular member of the Open Space Committee with a term expiring on August 31st, 2026.
So moved. Second?
Any comments?
Just to thank her, and I appreciate her taking the time to fill out the application. I don't know all the people who volunteer for the town council committee, so it really does help to get a sense of who they are. She certainly brings a wealth of experience to the committee, so just really appreciate her taking the time out for us.
Yeah, I'll echo that. The Open Space Committee was delighted to hear that there was
Yeah,
another
I can
member
imagine.
coming, and she looks terrific, so really appreciate her volunteering.
Yeah, same. Yeah, and her application was very thorough, so as Dan mentioned, it gives us a good picture of her qualifications and interest. Okay, so I will go to vote unless anyone else has comments. No? Okay. Anne?
Yes.
Dan?
Yes.
Marty?
Yes.
Matthew?
Yes.
And I'm also yes. Okay. Next up is report from the council chair. First, Mike, I did want to check in with you to schedule an executive session soon, just because we do have some updates to some of our pending legal matters that we probably should revisit
Okay.
with the rest of the council. I don't know. We could talk about that offline.
We can,
but-
yes.
And then I'd like to just congratulate John Powers on his promotion to foreman, certainly well-deserved. I know he's an established and well-known member of our community and a hard worker, and I'm glad the town was able to recognize that with his promotion. I want to remind folks that your real estate property tax payments are due on April 1st. That's coming right up. I was unable to attend the housing summit that GPCOG hosted today, so I just want to thank Mike for going on our behalf. I'm sure he'll update you on what he heard there today. He said that it was well attended, so that's good. Also want to remind everyone that we have a workshop coming up on April 2nd at 6, where Doug and Al Schaefer, Doug Webster, planning director, and Al Schaefer will be going over the GIS map they've created for the proposed zoning amendments that will align with our new comprehensive plan, and also LD 2003.
That's April 2nd?
April 2nd
6
at
o'clock?
6.
Okay.
Yep. And then just as a side note, for those who might be watching, the full solar eclipse is coming up on April 8th, and I just want to remind people that's kind of exciting, and also to get glasses that are approved you want to look for a ISO certification 12312-2. And while we don't have a full eclipse here in Gray, if you travel north a little bit, you could certainly see it. We have several open positions that are coming up for the June 11th election. There are 3 seats on the council, 2 3-year terms and 1 1-year term for anyone interested. There's also 2 school board seats open and I believe 1 seat on the water district. So those papers are due April 12th and are available in the town clerk's office for anyone interested in those. Sure, Ann will go over later. We will be meeting with MDOT again on Brown Street in particular in relation to the Village Transformation Project on April 10th. And also wanted to just, as I was saying after the comments earlier, I wanted to just regroup with people after this budget season on the priorities we had identified before Mike joined us. We had talked about the watershed ordinance, which actually the Resiliency Committee will now be working on through the grant that they're hoping to get through the Community Resilience Partnership. So that would be great work that's being funded through state money. We had also identified amending or working to amend our marijuana ordinance through an ad hoc committee. Matthew and I did meet a while back after we attended, as I mentioned earlier, a workshop through MMA about what that committee might look like. So we just would need to regroup as a council to set the parameters for that committee before moving forward. And then the other item we had identified was addressing our roads ordinance and driveway standards, particularly for for a number of streets, but we need to work with the Deer Acres community who's been waiting for quite a while on that update for that ordinance. So I know it's been a busy season here with Mike coming on board, and the budget has been a priority, and I know he's working hard on organizing our finances, but these are certainly items that are important to the community that we need to regroup on, hopefully before the June election. And then I don't want to lose sight of it because we had talked about it at the beginning of budget season. After last year's budget failure in June that we then revisited through town meeting in September, we had a lot of feedback about potentially making some changes to the charter. I think we had decided as a council to revisit it at the end of budget season before we print warrants. So we might want to have a workshop on that before we conclude for April, where we are voting and then those warrants are going on to the printer. We certainly didn't decide on anything. That's what the workshop would be for. But I think it was a topic we should revisit just because we've had a lot of feedback on that. That's all I had, just thoughts and things going on. Mike, did you have some updates for us?
Yeah, I have an update. If I could get access to share my screen on Teams, please.
Thank you.
Good night.
Brad, are you able to grant me access? Perfect, I just see it pop up. Thank you. Okay, so as the chair reported, the Housing Summit took place today in Portland. GPCOG had organized this event. It's been planned for a little while, and it was very well attended. I did have to leave early in order to come here to finish preparing for the council meeting. But we heard from Governor Mills and a number of municipalities who are doing great work in the housing front. And GPCOG also announced a housing toolkit that they're offering on our website. So we'll be sure to try to take advantage of that in the future to help us as we consider future housing development here in Gray. Krista did mention the promotion of John Powers, foreman at Public Works. So with that, it created an open position of light equipment operator at our Public Works Department, and then we also have open positions at our transfer station. We still have an open position of assistant clerk, which I think closes soon. We continue to have openings for firefighters, ongoing recreation staff, and then we just recently posted a new position following our budget review sessions of town engineer and / project manager. Though this wasn't included in the fiscal year 24 budget, there was funds set aside in the budget to support engineering and planning services. So we're going to utilize those funds to bring on a staff person to help us support the town from an engineering perspective as a whole and help us manage the village transformation project and any other projects that we will begin to take on that need management. And then we also just recently posted some new library positions following the budget presentation. We outlined some potential reorganization and positions, and all those positions have been posted as available. So those are some of the personnel changes. So be sure to check out if anyone's looking for employment opportunities with the town. Just to note also, and I didn't have a slide about it, but we will be having extended hours at Town Hall beginning on May 6th. We've essentially eliminated the 3.5-hour morning slot on Fridays and spread those hours to have later evenings. So I'll report more in detail on that in the next meeting of those changes, but that's been well advertised on social media and on the town's website. And that's an opportunity for a better schedule for personnel too, if people are looking. Also want to address an issue that was come to the attention of counselors and the community in general about some misinformation that's been happening in the community about it being my goal as the new town manager to close the transfer station, which is not true at all. And so I've learned that the beginning of the misinformation may have begun with an employee, that I'll be looking to address that situation. But it spread to social media, specifically Facebook, a Facebook post that occurred over the weekend that was brought to our attention that caused some confusion. It was also mentioned that they could connect that goal of mine from the discussion that occurred at a recent meeting, at a budget meeting. Instead, the discussion that I talked about focused on considering future strategies for recycling in light of Maine's new extended producer responsibility program. This program will offer funds to municipalities to support recycling efforts, and the town needs to assess its infrastructure to qualify for that funding, to essentially subsidize our recycling operation. While the current system works well, there's potential for improvement, including exploring curbside collection for the community, and pointed that out as an option. This could enhance convenience, potentially reduce costs, and boost recycling rates. It's an important conversation to have, but changes are still years away and subject to community input and decision making. And I'll describe some more details about it for the public's knowledge. Nowhere during any recent meeting did anyone propose closing the transfer station, nor have I spoken with anyone about the idea of closing the transfer station. What I shared at the town council was a consideration for the future regarding how the town handles recycling, given the new extended producer responsibility program for packaging that the state of Maine has enacted. In 2027, the town will be eligible to receive funds from this program to help pay for the collection and processing of eligible recycling materials for fiscal year 2026 and into the future. As part of this process, the town would need to have data about recycling that is collected and special equipment to gather that data and process recycling the town does not currently have. More information on this program can be found in an announced post on our website, and also been shared about the extended producer responsibility program. It's a new program for the state. It's only in a few states across America, and it's beginning to gain traction to essentially charge those who generate recycling materials, recyclable materials, such as Amazon's a good example, and all the boxes that they generate. Essentially, the state of Maine will be charging them a fine or a fee to give municipalities money to process that recycling. So the state will be collecting that and then distributing those funds. That's as simple as an example as I can. So the town is also an owner of EcoMaine in Portland, which is currently where the town's trash is taken once it's collected at the transfer station to the waste to energy plant that they have there. Currently, the town does not send its recycling there, as our manager, Randy, and his team do an outstanding job of sorting and selling recyclables on the open market. EcoMaine is investing in a new recycling facility designed to process recyclables according to this new program. This facility costs nearly $40 million, and given that the town is an owner of this facility, they are responsible for their share of the costs for the construction of that facility and the operation, despite that we don't send our recycling there. As part of our budget discussions, I shared that we would have to spend time during the next year evaluating how the town and ultimately its residents would like to handle these services, and that one of the options to consider would be curbside collection, which could be subsidized given the new program I shared, the town would be eligible to receive funds used to subsidize the cost of collecting and processing recycling, which I know an extensive review of that process was done by a now non-existent recycling committee, but the extended producer responsibility program is a factor that was not considered in that review, and why I recommended to the town and provided this information about this new program. So should the town continue with its current operations, it would be eligible for minimal funds to support a facility, as well as to support a facility that it doesn't use. That is fine if that's what the town council decides based upon feedback from residents. Many towns around us will be considering this, and why it's critical to consider this alternate route during the current fiscal year is that it would take approximately 24 plus months to implement any changes once a consensus is reached. So for instance, if the town wanted to consider doing curbside collection and having some sort of subset of the transfer station continue to remain in the community, any hauler that could do collection would need time to order new trucks. And this process is currently happening in Wyndham and some other communities, and they have a 24 to 36 month lead time to get those new trucks in order to offer curbside collection. So we would be in that queue if that was something that the town decided to do. So in any case, the transfer station will be operating as it is under the current form for a number of years. And if depending on the cost estimates and the subsidy received from the new program, the town may be able to change how it handles these services for around current budget or less. A change like that could help aging members of our community and others by providing a more convenient way to dispose of household waste, which is something town leaders have heard in the past and even evaluated on the former recycling committee, as I mentioned. A more convenient way could improve the town's recycling rates without paying for bags and save residents time and money while being more sustainable. I just want everyone to know I wouldn't be doing my job if I didn't share this information with the town council and ultimately the public. So again, I reassure you there are no plans to close the transfer station. I know it's an integral part of the Gray community, and I'll do my best to support it the years that I'm here serving this community. And that's all you mentioned most of them. We do have the public hearing on the budget will be April 9th, and then the joint meeting on the comp plan zoning discussion on April 2nd. So that is all I had for my town manager's update. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Mike. I also want to thank you for making that clarification about the transfer station. I know there was some discontent among residents, so I think it was good to get all the facts out there so people can have access to that, so I appreciate that.
My pleasure.
Okay, I'll move on to committee reports. Matthew, do you want to start us off?
Yes. Sorry. So the Tri-Mills School Committee met on the 19th, which coincided with our budget workshop, so I did not attend that meeting. Let's see. Gray Community Television is meeting tomorrow, so I haven't missed that meeting yet. No, I can't plan to attend. Recreation Committee meets April 1st. There's also a report from the Recreation Department in our package on page 21, I think, that gives the highlights of what the Recreation Committee is doing, so I won't rehash that. And that's all the meetings I've got scheduled until our next meeting.
Okay, great. Marty?
Okay, Wild Blueberry Festival is anticipated to meet tomorrow night at 7 p.m. Community Day meets Thursday, the 28th at 10 a.m. Zoning Board of Appeals is having a training session this week, matter of fact, tomorrow night at 6 p.m. Planning Board had to postpone its site walk yesterday because of the snow on the ground. And they will meet again on April 11th at 7 p.m. Finance Committee met March 21st and meets again April 18th at 4 p.m. And that's all I have.
Okay. Thanks, Marty. Dan?
Marty's pretty much said everything that I have to offer there. The planning site walk that the planning board canceled was for a subdivision on Mayo Road, fairly close to Route 100. That will be rescheduled. That's the only couple of things that I can think of to add.
Okay, great. Ann?
Yeah, Open Space did not meet in March because we had met already with the planning board and didn't have additional agenda items. Resiliency met last night to make final edits to the community action grant. That's in pretty good shape. We'll finish wrapping that up tomorrow, I believe, and get it. And I think we'll need some signatures from you on the cover sheet, but otherwise, we'll get that. That should be ready to go in tomorrow. It's been a terrific process. I really thank the council for their support and the committee members for really hard work on this proposal. And I also want to note that Rachel Lynn Rumson has concluded her consulting work with the Resiliency Committee and the town around the community resilience program, and I'm sure she gave us way more time than we contracted with her for, but really grateful for her assistance. The VTP check-in meeting, we had one of those in March, and as well as a follow-up meeting with MDOT and an ongoing discussion regarding some design changes to Brown Street and the Brown Street and the Yarmouth Road intersections. For years, observers may remember that the council has floated the idea of trying to do what's called in the planning business tactical urbanism on the Brown Street intersection. What that means is putting in a temporary installation to change traffic patterns, just to test them, to see, do they work? Do we like them? Do we not like them? Could we improve them in some way? And it makes sense to use, basically cheap or free materials to do that and test the idea rather than go through a lot of expensive engineering and planning and design and then find out, oh, that wasn't really what we, didn't turn out the way we'd hoped. So anyway, we'll be in touch with you more about this going forward, but we're hoping to do that this summer on Brown Street. Just a quick note about the VTP and MDOT. Dale Dowdy has been promoted to Deputy Commissioner, and he had been Director of Planning. He's still in the loop for the VTP, but is understandably pretty busy with his new role, so Brad Foley will be taking the lead from now on, and they'll sort of tag team. That's already seems to be working fine, and then we're hoping to get more details and get deeper into the design for the summer test of Brown Street at our next meeting. Still, the cooperative agreement is not signed, but it's close to being baked, I understand. And that's it for me.
Okay, great. Thank you, Ann. Matthew, do you have any correspondence or activities to report?
I don't have any correspondence or activities to report, but I would mention that I am signed up for the town alerts for meetings, and I did not get one today for this meeting, which I usually get one, an email saying there's a town council meeting tonight, and I did not get one, I don't believe.
Okay.
So-
Yeah,
I will inquire.
yeah, I'm signed up for those too, but I don't recall if I got one or not. So I know I did see it on Facebook, I remember.
Yeah,
so.
yeah.
I'm realizing
I'm here, obviously.
Yeah, right. I'm realizing I forgot to do my committee report, so I'm just gonna, before we do correspondence and activities, I'm just gonna do my committee report real quick. The GPCOG Greater Portland Council of Governments Executive Committee did meet on March 19th. Unfortunately, I was sick and unable to attend, so I will plan to attend the next one, which is on April 23rd. Ordinance Advisory Committee is meeting, as you all know, with the full council, planning board members, and open space committee members for a workshop on April 2nd. That's our next meeting for that. And then we are having our quarterly joint leaders meeting on April 11th with the school district and representatives from New Gloucester. We'll be touring the Unity College, or I think they're still college, at the Pineland campus, just exploring potential opportunities for partnerships with recreation or other items for both the school district and recreation programs in town. So I'm looking forward to that. And I want to thank Paul Larrabee on the New Gloucester Select Board for organizing that. That's all I had for committee reports. So circle back to correspondence and activities. So Matthew, did you have anything to report out? No. Marty, did you have anything?
I have nothing.
Okay. Dan?
Yes, I have been copied on some texts that were going around about the budget, have had some conversations with people about the budget on the phone and in person. I have also been into the town council's task list. I'm sort of the point person for the comprehensive plan coordinators report, which is something we've put off, understandably, but we need to bring them back in
Yeah.
front of us to
Mm-hmm.
report out their survey and to find out, if all the committees were able to respond to that. You mentioned earlier the Deer Acres Road Association and the various issues with roads and streets that we wanted to address. We have the review of the short-term rental ordinance that we put on our task list. We have this ordinance, pretty much, I don't think anyone is complying with it. We have a decision to make about, I think, how useful is that? Do we want to pursue it? We have the Stillwater Pines and the Cumberland Farms contract zones, which has been a long-standing desire of the council to convert those contract zones into ordinances for gas stations and for future open space subdivisions. We obviously are doing some work on that. It's tied into the comp plan and the zoning work, so that's kind of swept up by all of that. We have the issue of the toll barrier on the turnpike, which we think is influencing the diversion of traffic onto our roads, which we did that study with MDOT and the Maine Turnpike Authority. The Turnpike Authority essentially disowned the study, but we need to follow up on that at some point in time. With our legislative team was our desire. We created design standards for the village and the village proper. Primarily the last time it was specifically for duplexes. We wanted to touch base with that to see, there's been one duplex that's built under those standards. We wanted to revisit those to see if there are any additional changes we need to make, or just to check in to see how well that worked. I think there are a couple of changes in both of those cases that we would want to change. One of them involves parking, and the other also involves distance from Main Street and the height of the first floor above grade were the three things that we talked about wanting to discuss. And then the last one was around the state's how our commercial arrays here in town were caught up in the legislature's mistakenly including them in the law that they passed regarding how the town can tax it. And we have 2 commercial arrays that we can only tax essentially at 50%. So we're losing revenue from that, and our goal was to, again, work with the legislative committee to, understandably, the legislature wanted to protect and encourage solar, primarily for private homeowners was the concern, and inadvertently gave the same tax release to commercial solar arrays, which these aren't nonprofits or anything like that. These are folks that have arrays that are commercial opportunities, and I think they should be taxed at their full value. I've updated all the dates on those tasks, which is basically to kick them out into the future, but at some point in time, I think we need to go through the list and either consolidate it or decide what we're gonna do. And that's all I had. Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay. Thanks, Dan. Yeah, we do need to revisit our task list. I think, like I said earlier, we just, we've been prioritizing,
A lot of plate spinning.
yeah, a lot of other things, but we need to get back on track with a lot of the things that are still pending, so I appreciate those updates. Okay, Ann, did you have any correspondence?
Yeah, I
activities?
had a phone call from a resident who had questions about the budget, the 4-day work week, and rumored closure of the transfer station. So that's, Mike addressed that earlier, that's not happening. I attended Darcel DeVoe's retirement luncheon at the library last week. It was a really nice event, and thanks to the staff who organized it and those who came and bid her bon voyage on her, whatever her next journey is. She's been a great employee for the town. LD 2102, which would overturn what we refer to as LD1, the legislation that has caused a huge headache for Gray and other towns around the state, has been passed by the state Senate. The House will vote on it, they think before the end of the session. I supplied some additional language to Representative Graham for communication to other House members, and we very much appreciate the work of our legislative team in trying to get this passed. We've received notification, I should just back up and say, just because we didn't hit the limit this year doesn't mean we won't next year or in future years. So it's nothing that affects us every year, but it's still, when it affects us, it's a big burden. On happier news, we've received notification from Senator King's office that the Libby Hill Road Public Safety congressionally directed spending grant that we were awarded with the help of Senator Collins I had mentioned that that's been approved. Our application was submitted under HUD's Economic Development Initiative, EDI, and apparently we were notified that somebody from HUD will reach out within the next 2 to 3 months to give us instructions on how we proceed towards actually getting that money. So we'll need to provide some kind of narrative, and we'll figure that out when the time comes. But so that's exciting news. I was waiting for that that outreach.
And that
Yeah,
money
and
was
just,
for-
right, I was just gonna say, can you elaborate
Oh,
on
yes,
what it's
yeah,
for?
thank you. That was for the, what I called the Greater Gloucester High School, Middle School Public Safety Project, because it will build sidewalks on Libby Hill Road, created secondary means of egress from behind the high school onto Route 26. Huge safety issue for the school campus now, that there's only one way in and out of that campus, and that's Libby Hill Road. And then a crosswalk and sidewalk on Route 26 to accommodate residents who live on the other side of 26. So anyway, we got $834,000 to help with that. And the town has some match responsibilities, but we'll satisfy them in part through paving Libby Hill Road and some other stuff. And then lastly, I attended a Vision Zero meeting last Thursday. That's a program designed to eliminate traffic deaths and serious injuries. And the Greater Portland Council of Governments has a grant to do some planning around that. Chief Elkinich is also a member of that advisory committee. They're so GP is wrapping up their Vision Zero action plan and notified participants that at this point, they have their hands full with 2 existing Vision Zero grants and don't have the capacity to take on a third, which is understandable. So they basically sort of, this grant that they're working with now is focused on rural towns and island towns. And so they basically said, we're handing it over to you guys. You can use our action plan to apply separately if you want to, or in small groups. But, and we'll advise you as we can, but we're not gonna take the lead on those grants. So, we have a lot going on in the town, and there is such a thing as too many grants, and at once especially. So, it may be this year's opportunities may be something we'll have to let slip and focus on, FY '25, or 20, FY '20, it would be an FY '25 federal budget year, I think, that would offer some more opportunities, because it just might be too much. I know New Gloucester is really interested in partnering with us on this grant, but at this point, they think that they would prefer Gray to be the lead, and if we can't do that, then, we'll just have to let it ride and apply another time. That's it for me.
Okay. Yeah, so I'm just reflecting, because we've talked about Vision Zero as part of the GPCOG Executive Committee work, and I'm surprised to hear that they weren't taking on managing that, because I thought that was the plan originally, but, yeah, okay.
It was, but-
Yeah, maybe we'll get an update on that in April.
Yeah.
Okay, just regarding my correspondence and activities, they've been a little light, as I've been sick several times. I did meet with Mike and Dan on Friday. We had a very long and good, productive conversation about town goals and roles and responsibilities going forward. And then I also, and I think several of us had an email from Lacey Antonson, just letting us know about the rumor about the transfer station closing, and just that we might want to address it, which Mike has done thoroughly and successfully. That's all I had to report out. So I'm looking for a motion to adjourn at 8:11 p.m.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, all in favor? You can just raise your hand. Yeah. Unanimous. Okay, we will see everyone on April 2nd. Thank you.